I was listening to that
Let's get
podcast
it.
this morning, bro. It was fucking incredible. And
Well on.
the one with Dan Martell and Chris Williamson. I think we can leave this in. I think we can leave in the context of the podcast because I think people should go and listen to it as well.
It's outrageous.
We'll summarize it and talk about it in terms of the hair industry, and we'll put it into context based on our experiences. But the subject of today is team and how to build a killer team, why it's important to build a killer team and why you can't do it yourself, and basically why people fuck up in business. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the podcast, Lee? First thoughts so far. I've only got like just past the team part, but
Yeah.
yeah, what's your thoughts?
Oh, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think it really highlights the fact that, you need a great team to build a great business. Like, yes, you can try and do it. Like, it was a massive highlighter for me even, and like what we do. It's like the importance of buying back some of your time with a great team so that you can stay in your zone of genius and do the thing that is actually going to grow the business. It's incredible. And so, I know we filter down those ideas into our industry in the barbering world. I think it's so relevant for this topic today. But yeah, incredible podcast. If anyone wants to go and listen to it, Dan Martell and Chris Williamson, insane. But yeah, what did you pull from it in terms of team, just off the top?
If you're not training your team, everything is your fault. And everything is your fault anyway in life. I think the absence of responsibility is huge right now. Everyone's saying there's no good workers, there's no good this, there's no good that. It's your fault. Like if you get into business, the prerequisite is that you have responsibility to train people. And if things aren't going to your liking, there's only one person to blame. It's you. Always, as the leader. And with business ownership, unless you're a solopreneur, unless you just go down the solo route, which nobody really can do in the hair industry, because even when you're with your clients, they're kind of like your team, they're your team in life, and you kind of have to lead and train them to behave in a way that is according to how you want to live. So my outlook on it and my thoughts on it are, it's always your responsibility to be conditioning and training people in a way that's positive, net positive for everybody. And we just don't see it. It's almost like a lost thing, like the whole training piece. People want the end result. They want the end product. When these young kids are coming in straight from school and they're starting at barbershops, it's like people want the A players, right? Like you were saying that to me this morning. People want the A players to join their teams, but nobody wants to train people to become A players, which is probably more likely. And you said something great yesterday as well in a voice note, speaking about football teams and using the football analogy. I'll let you go down that road with that. But that's the main takeaway for me, is that everything's your responsibility. If things aren't going to how you like within your business from a team perspective, it's up to you to train them. That's it.
I love it. I love this topic. And look, we could sum this whole podcast up real quick. Like, this could literally be a 2-minute podcast. It's your responsibility to train your team. If you don't want to train your team, that's on you. You can expect the results that you're going to get, bang average results. But the bigger thing is, when we speak to business owners, they say, oh, I don't have the time to be a training team. And that's where that pipeline of thought goes, when I only want A players and I only want people that are really good. Why? All right, obviously it works good for business, but what you're really saying when you get behind the word is, number one, I can't be bothered, and number two, I don't have the time to train people. Okay, well, what's the real problem there? If you had the resources, would you? Of course you would. That's most people's problem. They don't have, when they say they don't have the time, they mean they're not making enough profit to give themselves the time to train their team. That's what they mean. So the bigger problem here is what we always talk about. Let's focus on your revenue line, on your profit line, so that it makes everything else easier, so that you can buy back some of your time, so that you can do the things that are actually going to grow your business, like training a brilliant team. That could be the podcast. we could end it there, and that could set up a brilliant pipeline for everybody to go and speak, think about, and get help with, right? But that's not all it is. That's a little bit, still a bit too left in the dark for some people. So the analogy that I gave you, and this is like, this was just, I was spitballing ideas off the top of my head, but it was like, imagine you take one of the best football teams to ever exist, Manchester United, right? And in their heyday, and imagine, they've done their marketing well, and they've attracted Ronaldo, they've attracted Rooney, they've attracted Beckham. Okay. And on the surface, that looks brilliant. You think, hallelujah, the A team's turned up. I've got them. But there's no training. Not a single training day. No coaches. You have no coaches, no manager, no training.
Yeah.
Good luck. How do you think that would have turned out? Now that, I know it sounds ridiculous. Oh, Leigh, that would never happen. Well, that's how barbershops are treating their shops and their businesses. Do you see the conundrum here? Everybody wants A players to turn up and not give them a training day, not give them coaching. I Googled last night, after I spoke to you about that, how much and how often do professional footballers train? And it's 6 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. They obviously don't train because it's on game day, because they've got game day. 5 to 6 days a week, they'll be training 5 to 6 hours a day. Now that could, maybe it's not all hard work. Some days it could be like more hit training. Some days it could be strength training. Some days it could be drills. We'll go tactics. We'll go recovery. We'll go prehab. But let's just put that in the bubble of training, right? That right there is what's missing in the barbering world. Now, I can hear you all in the comments already. Yeah, that's okay for you to say that, but we've got money to make and we've got this. Okay, but we're back to the start of the pipeline again, aren't we? Let's raise our revenue line and our profit line so that you can afford to do that and you do have the resources. It's like that kind of business can exist, and it does exist. It just doesn't really exist much in the barbering world from what we see. The hairdressing world, it exists, because it's a much more developed industry and people have worked out, wow, well, I'm going to need some resources to keep training my team. So that's the conundrum. And I think it's a brilliant topic because right now, we're seeing like a bit of the barbershop apocalypse right now, where every day there's someone closing their barbershop because they can't make ends meet and they're losing team, and they're posting about, the team are leaving, and they're clutching at straws to keep everybody in their shop, and they'll be putting out outrageous stuff on social media, slamming certain business models. Chair rent's bad. This is bad. Don't do this. Don't do that. But it's all a mask and a band-aid for like the fear of losing team. Okay, well, because they don't have a training system or a kind of a talent machine in place. So that's what this episode is about. How do we build that talent machine? How do we attract them? How do we train them? And how do we retain them? That is the thing that we need to be looking at. So back to my analogy of the football team, I doubt United would have done as well as they did if they had zero training. Yes, you can have the A players and the superstars turn up, but if you don't train them, probably not much is probably going to happen. All that talent's going to be going all different directions. They're probably going to lose hope. They're probably going to lose faith. They're probably going to lose interest. And they'll be like, well, this is just another job.
Yeah, well, you never ever see a situation where the players you never see a situation where the best players are on the field and also managing the team. It's very rare that you get a player manager type situation. But, when somebody says to me that they don't have time to train their team or they don't have time to work on their business, yet they're not happy with the results that they're getting, my answer to them is exactly. Exactly. Like, you don't have time. Exactly. You don't have time. Like, wake the fuck up. Like, when are you realizing that that's when what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to create the time.
Yeah.
And it's up to you. You just have to create the time. And if you have team, that's an easier thing to do than if you don't. But if you reflect on the Man United thing again, you know, Alex Ferguson was never on the training pitch. So he had a team of coaches that were coaching the players. He was working on the team, not in the team. He was up in the office working on strategy, working on tactics, looking at the opposition. And this is only important, guys, if you want to be in competition. I think that's what I was thinking about there when you brought it up first. What sprung to mind for me was like, it's only important to work on these things if you want to build a great business and if you want to be in competition with the best of the best when it comes to hair. And like you said, the best of the best and the people who do it the best build a reputation of being the best, which is essentially brand, and the brand attracts the players, the brand attracts the talent. This whole thing of recruitment, I don't particularly believe in recruitment. I believe in attraction. I think you should just be attracting people to the business because it's so attractive for them to work there, because of what's available, you know, the resources, the training, the infrastructure, the opportunities, the possibilities. You know, whenever these players go to these big teams, it's because it's going to help their personal brand. It's because it's going to help them get somewhere within their lives. If you don't offer all of these things for people, you're going to be left behind. And if you want A-grade talent, you have to offer them A-grade opportunities. And A-grade opportunities look like A-grade training and a system of growth, a growth formula. What happens when they get to X? What happens when they get to Y? Because a lot of the time, and where people, I think, get this a little bit confused is that we're going to put our prices up so that you guys can make me more money. It's like, no. Shop owners, you put your prices up so you can get more of your time back to work on the thing that's going to bring the whole business to the next level. It's not necessarily like so that you can just go out and go on holiday and buy fancy stuff and do all of that. And that happens too, right? We had this conversation in Ireland at the 3-day course. I don't think a lot of shop owners are doing themselves any justice by flexing around in Dubai in fancy cars and wearing the watches and wearing the clothes. It's not doing you any favors if and only if you haven't trained your team or they aren't on board with the big picture of what you're actually creating. Because that stuff's all fine as long as everybody knows what the fuck's going on. If you're like holding all of that stuff behind a bit of an information wall, then we're going to get stuck. Then we're going to have a bit of trouble because people are going to start thinking, oh, here I am working for this guy or working for this girl and she's living the life or he's living the life and I'm making them money. It's like, no. To really move the collective forwards, everybody needs to have an individual role. Everyone needs to be working on themselves as a business. It's up to us as a leader to prioritize the people in our businesses' lives. It's not to prioritize the business. You know, one thing as well that Dan Martell said, which was fantastic in that podcast, build the people build the business. And people do it the other way around. People do it the other way around, bro. They build the business and then they let the people crumble, you know? They just worry about the people building the business rather than the people building the people and letting the people build the business.
Well, an extension to that quote as well, another thing that he said was like, people will spend more time training the customers than they ever do training their team.
Oh,
it's so backwards, man. It's so backwards. It's like,
let's go there.
It's like the piece of content I put out the other day, and I was surprised how well it resonated actually. So people must be thinking this. But you know, I said something along the lines of like, if you want a better business, a better career, and a better life, build a business that you would like, not a business around your clients. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, right? Because the next person will go, oh, but the clients though, like if we don't build it around the clients, like we won't have a business. It's like, no, I'm not saying disregard the clients. Let them give you the idea. Like, what does the client want, right? They want a high quality haircut. That doesn't mean you have to do it exactly the way that they tell you to do it. Deliver a high quality haircut, but build it and do it in the way that you would like to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's really, really powerful. And so that's that whole sequence there of like, most people spend more of their time training the customers than they ever do training their teams. Richard Branson 101, train the team and the team will take care of the customers. Treat the people well and the people will take care of the clients. That's pretty much how all great businesses work. And it's in line with what the content that you've been putting out recently about what's more important, the team or the clients. It's like, and it blows my mind about the amount of people that say, oh, the clients are the most important. It's be careful with that. Be careful. Like, it's not that one is more important than the other. Like, the common denominator is we're all humans. We're all important. But it's like, are you putting a disproportionate amount of time on the client end compared to the team end? Because you need brilliant teams make brilliant businesses. And brilliant teams will naturally attract brilliant clients.
Yeah, I think I think fundamentally, as we grow as barbers, we don't get taught that our mindset has to shift and change at a certain point. And like, I think for me personally, I got a lot from the adoration of clients at the start, right? Like being the guy, but at a certain point, if you want the thing to grow, you can't be the guy anymore. And you got to build the business around the team, 100%. If you want it to scale or if you want it to grow, it's fine if you're capped out and you're just happy with the money that you're making, but most barbers aren't happy with the money that they're making. And we speak to thousands of them, and we have all over the world this year. And the large majority, 90% plus that we speak to, aren't happy with the money that they're making. And the ones that say that they are haven't come to terms with reality yet. And I asked that question last week, but I've asked it to multiple people. I've asked it to people in our coaching group. I've asked it to people that we've done one-on-one strategy calls with. So what do you think is more important, the clients or the team? And I can see that there's conflict within them when it comes to answering the question, because like you said, both are important. It's not that one isn't more important than the other from a human level, but what's more important to the business, the clients or the team? The answer again is still they're both important, but I would say it's on a 70-30, 80-20 kind of split when it comes to team, because of course you need clients to bring in the money, but the team bring in the money. The team serve the clients and the team bring the money in. The clients don't bring the money in. And get this one. This is a great one too. There's an abundance of clients. There's not an abundance of team. There's this whole talent shortage at the moment, right? Like people are looking for team. They can't find staff, workers. They're using all the fucking words that are turning people away. A staff is a stick, by the way, and workers are slaves. You're looking for team. Remember that and use the fucking right words. Sorry, I'm getting a bit aggravated, but them fucking words drive me crazy. Anyway, you're looking for good people to work within your business. You're not looking for just some stick or some slave. No, you want people who are entrepreneurial. You want people who are driven, who are motivated, who actually want to show up and get better. Team. You don't call them Manchester United football workers or Manchester United, football staff. Like, no, they're team.
Yep, they're a team.
So,
and it's in even the language there is so important, right? Like something that came to my mind there is I want to build a team of people that actually want to take responsibility of their lives. Like if I use the word worker or staff, I just think that's just a person that just needs to fill a gap. It's just like a cog. It's like a cog in the system. Like I just need something to put in there. There's no responsibility. Just do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, but team players, there's a different level to a team player. Team player actually takes responsibility. They understand the responsibility not just in the business, but their lives. They want to take responsibility for their lives as well. That's a different person.
Totally. And when I was in the Kerwin race space, they would reframe our team, our staff, or our workers as talent. That was the word that was used. The word that was used was talent. So I'm having an issue at the moment with one of my talent members. Now, the reason that it's used, think about it from a psychological level and a subconscious level, is when hiring, you're not going to hire anybody who doesn't have talent if you're calling them talent. Like, the biggest problem that I see people having with team is they're hiring out of need rather than want, and they don't have the patience to wait. So they just hire anybody, and they're not talented, or they don't fill the space as if in the way, they don't really fill the space in the way that you want them to as an owner. You know, they're not keeping up with the standard. They're not at the quality. They're not at the standard. They don't have the values. Like, values is another thing that we'll get into in a minute, because I think that's a huge part of it. But one thing I wanted to touch on that I mentioned a minute ago was the fact that there's an abundance of humans. There's not an abundance of team. You'll find new clients. You'll find better clients. You'll find different clients. You probably won't find too many great team members, and you don't want to burn them. You want to treat them appropriately, because as soon as you burn them, you burn your business. And that is a fact. I've seen it playing out time and time again. And this whole thing that everybody's replaceable, in some businesses, some people aren't replaceable. So you better look after them people, because the people that you complain about or the people that you give out about, they're the ones that are going to give you your freedom. They're the ones that are going to give you the life and the business that you want. And you will get that life and business by giving them the life and business that they want.
Yep. And I think something to add on to there, like, again, is back to the responsibility piece. And like you touched on, entrepreneurial types of people and people that actually have a bigger vision, is I think it pays to know what someone's bigger vision is. Like, to know what's your 5-year bigger vision? Like, that is something that I'd be asking someone who wants to join my team. So what's your bigger vision? Not because I want to hold them back and limit them. It's like, hey, we've got this is our company's bigger vision, but within that, let's help you get to a point where you can actually create your bigger vision for your life in the next few years. And if I can instill you with those skills, fantastic, because that only makes my business better, and it leaves you in a better place than how I found you as well, so that you can go on and have a great life too. And if the day comes that you do want to leave, we can leave here and we had a brilliant time and it was empowering all the way through. Now, a lot of people don't like the sound of that. They would say, oh, but, I don't want to train people when they leave. It's the classic thing of like, well, what if you don't train them and they stay? Like, what if someone stays for 5 to 10 years and they're exactly the same as they were when they turned up?
But the fundamental problem there is, like, you should want them to leave, because there is a process involved where, like, and like, this is another thing that Dan was speaking about. There's a process of creating leaders. Like, that whole fallacy of, like, what if I train them and they leave? Exactly. That should be the goal. Like, why would you want somebody to stay? Like, that again is like coming from a place of modern slavery. Yeah. It's like I just want to make sure that I keep my cash cows around. It's like, no. Don't worry about that. Train people to be the absolute best that they can be. Increase their value so much, they will bring the value to their team. Like, imagine if Man United never trained Cristiano Ronaldo to be the Ronaldo that he was. Like, it attracted. When people think of Manchester United right now, Ronaldo's one of the first players that comes to mind. And he was gone from Man United for over half his career. He wasn't playing for Man United for over half his career, but he still comes to mind because it's always associated back to that brand. So, like, all of the players that follow, Garnacho is a new one right now. Ronaldo's his hero. The reason he chooses to stay at Man United is because Ronaldo was once there. So, like, it's about building the overall brand and building the individuals within that to a point where they can go and lead themselves. But the likelihood is if you pour all your resources into these people, they're not going to want to leave anyway, because where else would they get it better? And in a lot of cases, they're not going to get it better. Like look at one of our clients. Fuck it, let's just name him Jacob. Let's talk about Jacob for a second. He's building a great business in Newcastle, Gallery X. He's got such a great thing going on for his team right now that it wouldn't make zero sense for them to leave and go and do their own thing. Like, they are making way more money. They have autonomy. He's one of the people that is doing it the best right now, you know? And I'm so happy to be helping him on that journey. But like, you know, there's people in his team who've probably thought I might go and open my own shop, not really knowing the ins and outs of what opening a shop is. But he's giving them such a good deal in terms of like how he's leading them and how he's looking after their lives, that it wouldn't make sense for them to go and open a shop. It just wouldn't.
No.
Unless they wanted to work on other opportunities and projects and they needed time. So unless they needed leverage of their time to do other things, then it would. And another thing, Leigh, while it's on my mind, there's a couple of things I'd like to speak to. Values is one, but also just noting it. The question that we got asked in Sydney at the course about, like, if you could start again now, would you do self-employed chair rental or like home studio, or would you have a barbershop? I felt like that was a bit of a trick question because it was coming from someone who had a home studio and they were probably hoping we'd side with them, but we didn't. But it's a big question right now in the hair industry as well. But yeah, where to go from here? Because there's a few different places we can go.
So somewhere I'll start before we get into values and that whole conversation around private studio or salon, which is going to be awesome. I love that conversation. I think what I've experienced in my career and what I see a lot from working in salons and barbershops for nearly 2 decades and working with business owners over the last few years, there's this like expectation and assumption that people should just know. Or if there's a problem, the first thing they'll do is they'll just hammer the person. Oh, but they don't know, oh, useless, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay. Slow down. Okay. This is, again, like a kind of like a Dan Martell framework. Give me a list of all the things that you think they're not up to scratch on. Okay, this, and this, and this, and this. Okay, it'd be like 10 things. Okay, and then, you know, it takes them through. We'll list them in order of like, well, what brings you the most money? What's annoying you? And what's like highest return? Okay, oh, this is, okay, so top 5, yeah. So out of those top 5, can you point to a training that you have in your business that outlines exactly how to do that thing to your standard with a debriefing process? 99% of people say no. So, okay, what is your fault then? Back to the start. If you have a problem with something somebody's doing and there is no training in place, like something they can actually go back and revisit, you have no place to complain. But if you train them on it and there's SOPs built around it and there is a training that they can keep going back to remind themselves, and you have a debriefing process and a feedback system, then you can come and address it and say, hey, but that's a different thing. That avoids all the complaints, all the assumptions, all the, oh, they should be, they blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I have a feedback system. So, hey, Dave, I've noticed this. What's up? Is there anything I can do? Can I help? Do you need to go and watch the training again? Oh, yeah, Leigh, by the way, oh, this is happening, this happened, this. Great. Okay, go visit the training. This is how I would do it, blah, blah, blah. And we're back again. We're back high level. We're in leadership level. And then we can create a great business. That's what training a team is. Now, most people think ego gets in the way and they're like, oh, people should just know. Okay, well, how would you like to be treated like that the next time you don't know something? Because from what I see, a lot of business owners also don't know a lot of stuff. So me as a coach, if I just stepped in and say, oh, well, what, you don't know that? It's like, you see, it's not a great communication system for a human. And we're bringing so much emotion into it. Let's get a little bit logical. Sometimes you just have to remove your emotions from your business and go, hey, like there's just processes and systems here that need to be done and adhered to. Like, and again, I know we're bringing up Dan Martell a lot, but this is the podcast that it's fresh on our minds. I love what he says. Build the machine that runs the machine. Like if you don't have the machine, which is your systems, your processes, your trainings, your SOPs, your feedback systems, and your debriefing processes, if you don't have those, you haven't built the machine that runs the machine. Therefore, you have no place to complain. It's your fault. It's part of being a great business owner is having that in place. And what have we spoken about on coaching calls and other podcasts? That is one way that you're going to make your business as valuable as it can possibly be. You know, this whole idea we speak about, like, treat your business like you're going to sell it. And maybe you'll never sell it. But if you think about like you are going to sell it, what does that do? You can keep it as valuable as possible. One of the things that an investor will look at when they're coming in to buy your business is what's the systems and processes? Can I just insert a manager, someone to run the shop, and can it run? Is there a machine that runs the machine? If there's not, your business ain't that valuable because it requires you to be on the ground. And this is where we're at again. If you don't train your team, and guess what? Is you are guarantee within 18 months to 3 years, you are going to have to be back on the floor, boots on the streets, getting your hands dirty, back in it again. You're going to be back to square one. I can guarantee it. I've seen it happen gazillions of times.
Yeah. Well, bro, it really boils down to this. If your business requires you, you don't yet have a business. And like, I actually sat down the other day, and look, we're not saying that we are at that position yet either. Like recently we're going to our coaches and we're saying, I'm going in with the mindset of like, just tell me what to do now, because I've tried to do it and I thought that I was smarter than you, but I've realized that I'm fucking not. So just tell me what to do. And it's funny because I just spoke to a couple of guys before coming in here this morning about that too. It's like the common theme is like, just do what people tell you to do. Like stop trying to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that we're some sort of gurus and experts who've got it all figured out, you know, but we can observe from the outside based on experiences that we've had in shops and like watching my mother have a salon for all my life. And we can see where the bottlenecks are and where people are a little bit stuck. But yeah, I mean, look, the thing with the feedback system as well, this leads perfectly into the values piece, because if there's no safe space, I hate the fucking safe space word, but if there's no like common ground when it comes to like what's acceptable and what's not in terms of a business, there's no safety created around the feedback system. And a lot of it can become very reactive. You know, it's very like, you did this and now this is a problem. It's like, no, if you didn't outline it in the first place, there can't be a problem. The problem is that you didn't outline it in the first place. So most business problems when it comes to team would be solved by pointing at a list of values on the wall. You know, we realize that over time. It's like, these are the things that we stand for as a business. These are what we believe in. This is how we operate. This guides our decisions on a daily basis. This is the GPS to our business and how we operate, how we deal with clients, how we deal with each other, how we show up for each other. If you don't have that in place, you cannot complain about absolutely anything that anybody does. That's just my point of view on it, because there's nothing for them to go off of. Like when somebody comes into Manchester United as a player, they know what the club's about. We're here to win. We're a winning team and we do what it takes to win. And these are the values that we adhere to. And the leaders in the dressing room are the ones that rally up the troops. And the person at the top, which for many, many years was Sir Alex Ferguson, he set the culture, you know, and without that, the values set the culture. That's something that we haven't said before, but is absolutely 100% spot on when it comes to running a team. And yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, when you can get that balance, when you can get that synchronicity within, you know, the values and the day-to-day operations, you're off to the races.
Yeah. And I love like where you were going with that, with like, you know, if you don't have the values set in place, or you don't have a feedback system or anything like that, you know, you really don't have grounds to complain. That's the difference with us, right? Like we don't have it all figured out, and our business does require us to a certain extent. But the difference is we're not complaining. We're actually really enjoying like what we're doing, the process. We know there's more, we know there's levels, and we have the help in our corner to guide us every step of the way. And we have the humility and the ability to be able to detach our feelings from certain things to go, hey, this is where we're at right now. We know that this isn't where it ends, and we know that there are ways to go. That's not the narrative, though, for the people that we speak to. The people we're speaking to is those that are too stubborn and are so convicted in the way that they think business should go, with all the shoulds, all the coulds, all the assumptions of like how people should just know and should just be, and I just want A players and I want this and this and this. It's that you're so convicted in the way that you think things are. It's like you just can't complain. Like, see, you're complaining about all the things, yet you're convicted in the way that you're running it, which just shows the way that you're running it isn't producing the results that you would prefer to have, thus meaning there has to be a different way. And I'm telling you now, there is a different way. That's the difference. We sit back and we see a bottleneck and go, hey, that doesn't feel great. Let's go get the help. Hey, that doesn't feel really great. Is there a better way? Is there a different way? Let's go seek some help. You know, we never sit back and we're so convicted in like, oh, well, this is how it is, and just complain and complain and complain and complain. It's like, no, there's always a way. There's always a different way. We're going to go find help. Mm-hmm. So that's massive. That's huge. Like if you find yourself complaining about things that are happening, aren't looking at different and better ways to do it, then you kind of got to stop complaining. It's like, let's figure out a way to produce the results that I prefer to have so that I can live a great life, have a brilliant business, a brilliant career, and a brilliant team.
Yeah.
And I love where you went with values. Like, man, that's been a game changer in our coaching group. Like, obviously we learned that early days, but like a lot of businesses can just point at a set of values and solve their problems. You know, it's huge. Like let's talk about team, like onboarding processes, right? Like a lot of shops don't have an onboarding process. Part of the onboarding process can be, well, let's agree to the value set. Is there anything that you don't like here? Can we talk about? Is there anything you'd like to add? That's brilliant. Imagine you turn up to a barbershop and they say, hey, these are the values of our business. Our values set our culture. Is there anything you don't like? And is there anything you'd like to add? Oh, what a dream come true. Immediately, you feel like, I would feel like I'm part of this thing. Like, wow, they actually care about me. I mean, immediately. That would be huge. And then everything can be pointed to on a set of values. Hey, Dave, I've noticed this. Like, this is what we agreed to. Remember, like, this is the values set and the culture set of this business. I've noticed that, like, this has been happening. Is everything okay? Is there anything I can help with? And depending on where that goes, you might need to make another training. Is it your responsibility as the owner? Have I not made a training for this guy? Do we need to debrief some stuff? Do we need to go for a feedback system? Or are they just having a shit time? Like sometimes it's external things and people are having a shit time, and that's okay too. Or they might not be playing ball. They might not be carrying their weight. So do you have a system and process for that? Again, it removes all the judgment and the assumption and the shoulds and the coulds and all that kind of stuff. It's like, let's just have systems and processes to really encourage and build and nurture humans in a brilliant way from a leadership standpoint.
So speaking to systems and processes for a second. So I sat down the other night with a guy, one of Hannah's family friends, and he was valuing businesses for a long time. So his whole thing was like, I was valuing businesses. So I had a good conversation with him actually about like barbershops, and he was talking to us about what we do and whatnot, right? So he was like, how would you value a barbershop if you were going to value a barbershop? And I was like, it's a really interesting question, because I was like, yeah, you'd obviously do it the same way you'd do it with every other business. You'd look at like systems and processes. You'd look at profit multiplied by X amount of years, and you'd kind of project what it was potentially going to make. But he said the whole thing about valuing a business is predictability. And I was like, yeah, great. Predictability on quality, on what you're going to receive from a financial standpoint. And the deeper we got into the conversation, we realized that most barbershops aren't worth much because there's no predictability in them, based on the brand, based on the plan, based on if the team leaves, then there is no barbershop. And the clients, you can't predict that they're going to come back, because if you don't have really good systems, like, they're coming to the barbers, they're not coming to the barbershop. So like, you don't necessarily have much when it comes to value. He basically said all it's worth for most barbershops is what is inside the space in terms of the equipment. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of right.
Yeah.
Because there's no training systems, there's no brand behind it, there's no nothing. So like, at the end of the day, there is no exit, you know? The only exit is like you quitting or bringing it down to the ground. You could sell it on. We know people who have bought businesses, you know, speaking about Jacob a minute ago, he bought the business that he now owns and rebranded and did it his own way. But it's not that an investor wouldn't buy it if they didn't cut hair. So like, that's the difference. Like, the leader needs to be there for a good bit of time, but they need to lead. They don't need to be doing the stuff that is in the weeds. You know, there's a difference between leading and weeding. That's a new one as well. But there's a difference between leading and weeding. Like, are you just doing the low leverage stuff that's not moving the business forward or making it more valuable? You know, what got you here won't get you there. Like, what got you to the point of owning a barbershop won't get you to the point of having a barbershop that runs without you. You have to do different things. You have to work on different parts of the business. You have to work on nurturing the team. You nurture the team will nurture the clients. You have to work on the brand. You have to work on the marketing. There's different skills required. Doing more haircuts and doing more fades and serving the clients better isn't going to get you further. I loved what Dan Martell was talking about the guy in the bike shop as well, because I know people like that. Standing out the front of the shop and talking to the clients about how their day was isn't running a business either, right? Like, people come for a result. At the end of the day, if people weren't getting haircuts at your barbershop, they wouldn't come to your barbershop. I don't care what you say. Like, I don't care what you say. They could be friends of yours all you think, but if you stop cutting their hair, they're not coming to your barbershop. I don't spend time with any of my clients anymore. None of my time is spent with any of my clients that I was cutting their hair. Now, there's a couple of them that often come to Bali and they might be here and they'll message me and say, do you want to cut a coffee? It doesn't mean I won't spend time with them, but I'm talking regular time. I'm talking like on a weekly basis. So yeah, that was a really interesting conversation the other night about like the valuation piece and like how do you make it more valuable? And for the most part, it's not worth much.
Yeah. I can't remember where I got that from. That's exactly what I mean by treat a business like you're going to sell it. And it must have been on a podcast about someone talking about taking companies public, right? Because there's when you have an IPO on a company, it's a massive process, and it's basically about driving up the value of the company the 2 to 3 years leading up to when you want it to go public. And that is exactly the mindset that an investor looks at when they want to buy that business, is predictability. Like you said, until an investor's going to think like you do when you run the business without you, they don't want to run the business. Their predictability measure is they're going to go, can this thing start making money the moment I sign the dotted line? The moment I sign the dotted line, can this thing start putting money in my bank account? Yeah. Without me,
as of next week, like they don't want to be in there with the team. Like that's the big thing.
They don't want to be thinking, oh shit, now I've got to learn skin fades. What's it going to take me 18 months to be making money? Blah blah blah. No. Like if you want some great info on this and think I'm just talking shit, go and listen to Cody Sanchez. Her whole kind of net worth is around buying and selling businesses, right? And you'd be amazed at what types of businesses she buys, just like high street businesses. But they have to be generating great cash through great systems and processes. It can't just be on a whim. She has to walk in, do her due diligence, and go, oh, I can see exactly how this thing makes cash. I can point to the pieces of the puzzle that, yep, you've got that, you've got that, you've got that, you've got that. Fantastic. And she goes for it. It's like, that's what makes a business valuable. So if it requires all hands on deck, all the hours of the week, boots on the streets, and that's the only way it makes money, you don't have a valuable business. You have a job that pays you okay. You know, you're just taking yourself from one place to another place and doing the same thing. Now, I think something we need to caveat here is we're getting fired up about this, and I fucking love getting fired up about this shit because we're for the people, not against the people. But the caveat here is this isn't a judgment, and it doesn't mean things are bad, but the trap that we need to get out of is that all hard work is noble. This is another thing that I've been talking about for a long time, but and we both have, but Dan Martell spoke about this as well, and Chris Williamson. They said, you know, this like it's working class mindset. I grew up in a working class town, heavily working class town, and this was the mindset that I had for a while. All hard work is noble. It's a trap for a lot of people, like to say, oh yeah, but you know, I'm doing 50 fades a week, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing this and that. Two things here. This is going to hurt a lot of people, but it's truths that I had to go through myself. Being busy gives you the illusion of importance, and not all hard work is noble.
No.
Like that is just, if you can get to a place in your mind with that, then you're going to be so much better off in life. So much better off in life, because it will allow you to adjust the compass so much more. Be like, hey, okay, not all work is noble, and just because I'm busy doesn't make me important. So how can I reset the compass here, reset the map?
Yeah, I love that part of that podcast too, about the to-do lists and shit like that. It's just staying busy. And like, you know, we've worked with people as well for years who are just working. They're not, I wouldn't say they're working on the wrong things. They're just not working on the highest leverage things. It's like building another website right now isn't the main issue, right? You need customers, like, or you need better systems with the team. Like, your website's fine, you know, like stuff like that. Or, you know, even just the low leverage things like doing the washing or whatever it is, right? Like cooking. Like, I don't like cooking. Like, I'm going to waste fucking 3 or 4 hours of my day cooking when I could be working on the business. But I think where most people get stuck there is not knowing what to work on. And that's where the help is required. And like, it's hard to talk about this without it sounding like a sale, because it's like, yeah, we can help you. Of course we can help you. But like, you should want to help you. You know, I don't care where you get the help. Like, we can point you in the right direction to help. Like, we know a lot of people who can help you with this type of thing. It doesn't have to be us. But the caveat, to add to what you're bringing in with the caveat, is to just get the help. Because you're not going to figure it out by yourself. What got you to here won't get you to there. There's a lot of shit that we don't understand, and we have to put ourselves in rooms with people who understand it and acquire the knowledge to get us from here to there. Like, you know, what got us to 300,000 isn't going to get us to 1 million. You know, like, it's the same thing in a barbershop. You know, you're never going to get to $1 million in a barbershop without a team. And that leads perfectly into the last few minutes as to that question in the 3-day course. Would I have a barbershop or would I do a home studio? Now, I think both have a necessary place in the pipeline of somebody's journey. If I was to start from scratch, I would probably go to a barbershop, acquire some skills, then go into the home studio space, acquire some money, and then go back to the barbershop again. That's probably what I would do, because that to me looks like a line that goes up like this, whereas, yeah, it allows me to like actually have some progress and growth. Now, I wouldn't be able to do that if I was just working in a home studio. At a certain point, you can't scale a home studio. You're capped. You're stuck. You know, if you're at $1,000 a day, it's still a barrier. It might sound great, but you're still stuck. And it depends really what your vision is and what you want, right? There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong. It's just, what do you want? Like, and what are you trying to do with the money? It's like, what's your plan for your money? And there's no right and wrong. And that's why that whole thing pisses me off as well. Like, the whole chair rental is wrong, working in a barbershop is right. It's like, there's pros and cons to both, and I think both serve a purpose at different times in people's journey.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. You know, it's really understanding the model that you're in, the system that you're in. And again, what do you want your business to do for your life? You know, and I totally agree. At this point in my life, I'd go barbershop just because I understand I can leverage that, right? But like you said, at the beginning of your career, I think it's so important to be around A players, like full immersion around the best possible talent you can get, because you're going to progress faster and you're going to get really good really quickly, probably faster than most people doing it on their own. But then there's a season where, yeah, you might want to go out on your own and accumulate some cash, you know, build that rainy day fund, build that war chest, get yourself set up, get a nice bit of cash in the bank. And then I'd come back to a business, start to grow a team and leverage a great team. And then what that will do is allow me to buy back some time and leverage my money, invest my money, create a money machine. And then all of a sudden, I get to create and live the life exactly on my terms, how I want to, and stay in my zone of genius and just do shit that I enjoy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So that question again, would you have a barbershop now or would you have a home studio now? I would actually focus more on building my personal brand before building a barbershop, because then it's almost a guarantee that the barbershop will work. A lot of people do it the other way around. They build a barbershop and they try to build the brand of the barbershop and their personal brand together. But like, if you want to just plug in something that works, like build your personal brand first and then open a shop and then have the drink. Like, think about Prime, right? Like, the reason Prime works is because Logan Paul and KSI get behind it. They didn't create Prime and then tried to build their personal brand. They did it the other way around. You know,
Yep.
Personal brand really amplifies absolutely everything. It's the catalyst, you know, in the funnel.
Yep.
Like, without that, it's really hard to grow anything. So that's what I would be focusing on first. I'd be focusing on getting really good at the skill, working at a barbershop that actually helps me grow, surrounding myself with great people. When I feel like I've reached my capacity there, I would then probably go down the road of home studio. In the meantime, I would be getting the best training that I possibly could get and still surrounding myself with amazing people and working on myself and other skills so that I could then open a barbershop and leverage that. Or I'd go into education or I'd go into coaching. Whatever. You can do whatever you want once you have brand.
That's what we can't forget, right? We can't just think about the barbershop in the archaic barbershop world where the only thing you had was people walking in off the street and hopefully they'd rebook and come back in. We're forgetting there's a thing called the internet now, and that changes everything. And the truth in the Prime thing is that Logan Paul and KSI don't even own Prime. They're just equity holders.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even own it. So that is even more proof in the pudding that you put a great personal brand to Prime or any kind of product and it goes through the roof. Prime probably would never have ever made it if those guys didn't get involved.
No, and look at there's hundreds of energy drinks and all sorts of projects like that don't go anywhere because there's no brand behind them. There's no proof or evidence or people endorsing it to say that it's valuable. So it's just the way the world works, you know.
And let's tie it all the way back into team. You think KSI and Logan Paul are formulating that drink, putting the wrappers on, putting the delivering the bottles to the shops, doing the marketing? Absolutely not.
No chance.
Great teams behind $1 billion company. Same in McDonald's. You know, we can use that. A bunch of 15-year-olds run one of the biggest multi-billion-dollar companies on the planet through great training and great systems, great processes.
What a fantastic topic. There we are. We're at the hour. I'm going to get kicked out of here.
That was a juicy hour.
It was juicy. I'm going to get kicked out of here, but I think we can expand on that in future episodes because there's some more tactical things that people can do, and I think we could definitely go down that road. But, you know, this is all stuff that we work on with people in our coaching group. You know, like we want to help them build great businesses, ones that they never feel they want to sell, but could potentially sell. And yeah, it just really depends on what you want in life. But one thing is for sure, there's no such thing as leverage without people. You get to a certain point, but what will get you there won't get you to the next place. So keep that in mind. And if you want to get to this place,
Mhm.
it needs different action. So thanks for tuning in, guys, to this episode of Unlimited. We'll be back with another banger whenever, next week, hopefully. And yeah.
Stay
Speak to you
unlimited.
then.